Auditorium for Monday, 2014, November 24th at 7 p.m. And we'll call the regular meeting of council to order. And Mr. Ferrero, are there any late items, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, there is. We're going to add delegations to item 8A. Mr. Jones, Mr. Garshore, Mr. Guilfoy, Ms. Guilfoy, Ms. Irvine. That's to item 8A. We're also going to add item C, reconfiguration delegation from Mr. Fred Taylor. We also add in delegation from Mr. Fred Taylor to item 8M. And we add in delegations to item 8O, Ms. McRae, Ms. Chadwick.
I think it's Ms. Jones McRae. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm sorry, Your Worship, you're correct. And Ms. Ramsey. And also I have one more item, Your Worship. In page 89 of your agenda, there's a bylaw for item 8M. I will add the following text. After the single dwelling residential R1, and the added text will read, and community service 1, CS1. So I give you a copy of the corrected amended bylaw that you have in your desk. And
yes,
for the public, if they want to see, there's copies right behind me over here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship.
That's it. Okay, Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make a motion that we amend the agenda and bring item 9A, the Youth Advisory Council, and put that under presentations. So 5, and make that 5A.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And Councillor Patchy?
Thank you, Worship. I have a request to move item 8O, the Lindley Valley Park Dedication Bylaw, with the 3 delegations to the front of the agenda, so that would be the front of corporate services, in front of 8A.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. So this item 9A will become 5A. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Worship, we can consider 9A under 5 presentations.
Okay, and
then we'll just simply move item 8O right under corporate services, and we deal with that one first.
8O. Okay. So that will it be 5B, or are we going to hear it before 5B for Lindley Valley?
No, Your Worship, we'll just leave it under 8, and it will be the first item on the agenda after 8, so it'll be
but leave it where it is.
Yeah, we'll leave it at the beginning of corporate services.
Okay. As amended. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And
adoption of the minutes as circulated.
Minutes. Seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. So we'll move right into presentations. And the first presentation is going to be the delegation, which I'm struggling to find here now. That was...
It will be 9N, Your Worship.
Okay, and so this is going to be the Nanaimo Youth Advisory Council, and the purpose is to advise council of actions undertaken by the Nanaimo Youth Advisory Council, and there's going to be a presentation, and if we could call forward... Well, we've... got quite a few of them here. I had just 3, but you're all certainly welcome. So I have, and maybe if I just ask if you could just identify. I have 3 names, but there's quite a large group here. Samantha Bishop is Samantha, and Sarah Lumley is there, and Claudia Thompson. Claudia, hi, and. So, yes, can we help you?
Well, when you're done introducing everyone,
I won't forget you.
Thank you.
So, I just want to say that before I turn it over to Councillor Anderson for some additional comments, I just want to say how much we appreciate the commitment that you're making. You know, it's one of the concerns I think this council has had from the beginning, that getting youth involved in politics is a challenge in most cases. And yet here we have a mixture of young men and women that have come forward and been very, very active. And maybe through Councillor Anderson, we'll tease out of you all that you've done, because I understand you've held several meetings on your own as well, in conjunction, I think, with John Horn from the city. So I just want to offer my congratulations and my appreciation, because it's important that you're involved, and I'm truly appreciative of your commitment on time. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I would just say that not only should we congratulate this group of people, but we should congratulate council as a whole in that council thought that having young people involved in the political process was an important initiative and established this Youth Advisory Council. So I would just, as council's probably already aware, I'm the council designate individual who sits on this council apart from City Council, and a lot of work has continued over the period of time since we've selected the individuals. As we all remember, there was about 30 applications and we've come down to about 12 individuals now, which I think goes to show that young people in this community really are interested in having a voice in local government practices and also the decision-making process. Furthermore, I think it's great that we're going further, and I think being a leader in Canada and British Columbia and saying that we're going to give young people a consistent platform to inform local government decisions. And I think it's so often that young people are put on the fringe of our decision-making process. So during this process, we've seen a new terms of reference from the Youth Advisory Council, which I'm sure that they will explain, and I think we have the majority of the individuals here tonight as well. And so thank you to all of you who've decided to participate, and I look forward to watching and seeing what you guys do over the next 2 years. So off to you, Samantha.
So Samantha, you're going to be the spokesperson for it, are you?
For the first part, at least.
First part, good. Welcome.
My name's Samantha Bishop. I'm the current Vice Chair of the Youth Council. So thank you, Mayor Tan and Council, for allowing us this opportunity to speak. I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce ourselves just quickly with first, last name, and our age. So Akash Pawar, 19. Bree Odgers, 15. Cassidy Sanford, 16. Claudia Thompson, 16. Coleman Capps, 16. Kent McDonald, 18. Mackenzie Cumberland, 17. Myself, Samantha Bishop, I'm 20. Sarah Lumley, 21, and then Malcolm Beaton, Alexander Chung, and Madeline Shred were unable to join us this evening. And now I'd like to pass it on to our current chair, Sarah, who's going to introduce our vision.
Great.
All right, thank you, Samantha. So I am Sarah, and I'm the current chair of the Nanaimo Youth Advisory Council. And I just wanted to share a little bit about what we are and what we do and a couple of things that we've done so far. We've met currently 5 times since September and once in May with some of the council members, and most of the youth council were present for that. One of our first agenda items was actually to come up with our positions for the committee or council. Which was a vice chair and a chair, and we decided actually to make it a rotating position. So it's 2 months, so I'm the first chair, and Samantha is the first vice chair, and then in a couple weeks, actually, we're going to rotate that up. Samantha's going to become the new chair, and somebody else is going to take on the vice chair position. And that way we can get pretty well everybody through a position in the 2-year term that they're serving on the youth council, which is pretty cool.
Good concept.
So the next thing we got together to do was to create a vision. A lot of people have been asking who we are and what we do, so we decided to make it simple, and we came up with a 3-word vision. Represent, engage, and inform. And if you can see on kind of the back of all of our shirts, all the ones with their backs to the audience there, we've also come up with a logo incorporating this motto. And that was actually designed by one of our youth counselors, Kent McDonald. So represent refers to our role as both youth representatives in Nanaimo and our advisory role to council. So we are essentially the youth voice, and we're representing that youth voice in Nanaimo. Engage is about our goals of bringing more youth to the table, creating more discussion, and encouraging more youth to participate or have a say in decisions in municipal decision-making, as well as for plans for our future. And we are, in fact, going to be the people inheriting the city, so it's one of those really important things to start getting involved now as opposed to later. And inform, the third word, is about our desire to get the word out about issues pertaining to youth. So actually just building some awareness and generating some discussion about what's going on in the city and how it applies to youth, as well as also informing the greater public about what some of the fantastic youth in our community are already doing. So there's lots of other initiatives going on that we would like to showcase as well. And with that in mind, I'm going to pass it off to Claudia, who's going to wrap up and tell you how to get a hold of us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. If you would like to find out more of us, check us out on our new Facebook page, Nanaimo Youth Advisory Council. On there, you'll find brief bios of all of the members, including what we are passionate about. Also, keep an eye out for us out in the city during events, and if you do like the page, you will receive updates on what we are doing and involved in. Before we go, I'd like to thank the current mayor and council, especially Councillor Anderson, our council representative, for creating the opportunity for youth input and involvement, as well as John Horn, our staff council. And the newly elected mayor and council. We look forward to working with you in the new year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, thanks very much. Well done. Well, it's kind of refreshing, you know, and this was a dream that Councillor Anderson carried forward, and you know, I don't think we could have found a better group of people than we have before us now, so I want to thank you all for coming and look forward to hearing from you in the future. Thanks again. Now, we're going to move into...
Your Worship, there is a motion to receive the report.
So moved, Your Worship.
Seconded by Councillor Anderson. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we'll go into...
We're going to deal with item 8O.
8O.
Under corporate services.
Okay. Got it. 8O will be...
Lindley Valley.
Okay. So we have the Lindley Valley Park Dedication Bylaw 2014-7204. And the purpose is to dedicate recently acquired parkland in the Lindley Valley through a bylaw. And we have three delegations here. Ms. Joanne Jonas McCrae, Ms. Edna Chadwick, and Ms. Sally Ramsey. So if you would like to come forward, please. Wherever. Yeah. Hi.
I have to say my name? Say my name? Do I have to say my name? Joanne Jonas McCrae at 5728 Malibu Terrace. So I wrote up a thank you speech for Mayor and Council, and I also have something that I brought from one of our other members who couldn't show up today.
Okay.
Mayor Rutan and councillors, I would like to extend a huge thank you to each and every one of you for your decision and purchase and protect Lindley Valley West lands as nature park, implying leaving it in its natural state as a city park for all to enjoy. What a fantastic legacy this is for generations of Nanaimoites and more. How wonderful this will be for all of the wildlife that live in Lindley Valley West and depend on the natural environment for their survival. Joining the East and West Valley as one large park will make Nanaimo a truly special place to live and visit. Having such a large wilderness area in the middle of our city brings with it great benefits to all who live here. From the beginning of this journey until the end was truly an interesting experience, one that I will never forget. From that very first phone call that I made to alert the newspapers of nesting bird trees being cut down, to the forming of our group Save Lindley Valley West, I have met some great people and friends and supporters, and I honestly never believed when it all began that it would actually come true, that we could actually protect such a huge wild area. It was like a dream when I began hearing the first tidbits of information leaking out that it was going to possibly become a reality. I'm so grateful to you, Mayor Rutan and council members, and I'm also very grateful to all of those who supported us and helped us to save those lands. I would also like to thank Jennifer, Sally, Edna, Don and his geography department at VIU, Peter, Jeremy, and Mo for all of the hours they put in, Joe Materi from Ursus Consulting for the professional bio-inventory of the area, Spencer Heemstra for his video, as well as all of our supporters online in the community and in other faraway communities, Deborah Carlson from West Coast Environmental, Ben Arsenault from the Environmental Law Clinic of UVic, and his supervisor, Calvin Sanborn, Shelley Bowe for her fantastic help with getting the petitions out, Deborah Curran of the UVic Law Clinic, David Gray, the teacher at Woodlands Secondary and the Woodlands Secondary School Environmental Club, Mr. Graham and Dover Bay Secondary School Environmental Club, the late Ryan Cathers, birder who provided us with information on bird species and more, the Stewards Group, which was the second extended group of Save Lindley Valley West, Bruni, the Backyard Wild Bird Store, and all of the local businesses who supported and had our petitions, friends and family who supported us and put up with our constant requests for help with petitions and rallies, and anyone else that I may not have listed here. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I am just so very happy that this area is protected.
Thank you.
So I brought an email from Peter Jeremy, who helped us a lot along the way, and he sent an email, I believe, to Mayor and Council, but I'd like to read it out because he couldn't be here tonight. Okay. He wrote, "Dear Mayor Rutan and councillors, we are not able to attend the Lindley Valley Park dedication this Monday, but we would like to add our voices to those who thank you for your wise decision to purchase the land for this park. When we moved to Nanaimo 6 years ago, we were drawn to the city's wonderful natural areas and parks, such as Neck Point, Westwood Lake, Piper's Lagoon, and especially Cottle Lake and the surrounding wild area. Over the years since then, we have sometimes watched with dismay the rate of development and the disappearance of much of the natural areas, so that we wondered if we had made the wrong choice in coming here. You can imagine then the joy and relief we felt when City Council displayed interest in preserving natural areas with the decision to buy the land in Lindley Valley. We would like to say thank you for your far-sighted decision to save at least a portion of the Lindley Valley from development. Future generations will recognize your wisdom, and hopefully the new council members will also realize the importance of protecting and preserving natural areas. Your decision has benefited all present-day and future citizens of Nanaimo and made it a better place to live."
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Edna Chadwick. I live at 3261 Poppleton Road, Nanaimo. Firstly, on behalf of Nanaimo's wildlife, I would also like to express my thanks for your part played in the protection of these lands. There are many people to thank. Joanne for starting the group in the first place, and for her dogged persistence when most of us had given up at the end. I don't believe we'd be celebrating today without her. Jennifer O'Rourke, who now lives out of town and couldn't be here tonight, for her hours of painstaking research work. Sally for her photography, her guided tours, and willingness to engage anyone and everyone who would listen to her. Don Alexander for involving his geography students and taking them on tours in the valley. Bruni for her passion and willingness to go out to court for blocking work in the valley and organising a beer and burger night at the Queen's. For all the people who have supported us, even if it was just signing a petition, I thank you. We could not have done it without you. There were so many people involved in the campaign, but I would like to mention one young man who at a very early age developed a passion for wildlife and particularly for birding. Very unusual in one so young. Most birders are sort of my age. He was only a teenager when his interest was piqued. He used the Lindley Valley frequently for his pursuits, watching and photographing birds, and became very disappointed and angry when he could see the wild areas disappearing. When we started our campaign and before we decided to commission the bioinventory, we were interested in finding out which creatures called the valley home. This young man was the first person I thought of to ask re the bird population residing in the valley. I was amazed at the amount of knowledge he had, and we used his bird list in our campaign. He was involved in the Brandtgeese Festival in Parksville. He organised and led the Nanaimo Christmas bird count, which was a 100-year-old tradition in Canada, I just found out. And he worked at the Backyard Bird and Wildlife Store. He was pursuing a career in birding and was in his last year at VIU doing a Bachelor of Science in Biology. Early this year in May, he found his dream summer job of banding birds in Alberta. He was heading out one afternoon with his camera in the car, doing what he loved to do, watch birds, when he was killed in a head-on collision instantly. His name was Ryan Cathers. He was 21. I would ask that we dedicate some sort of memorial for him in the valley, a bench, a trail, a plaque, something where his family and friends can go to remember him and his passion. His memorial was held at the Coast Bastion Ballroom, where he also worked. It was packed with family, friends, VIU students, faculty, musicians, Lindley Valley supporters, birders. They even flew the flag at half-mast for him. In his short life, he had accomplished so much and impressed so many people. He did hear about the acquisition of Lindley a little while before he died and sent his congrats to us. I believe a memorial would be a fitting tribute to such a fine young man, and I ask that this council commit to making this possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Maritan and Council. It's such a pleasurable moment. I'm just tingling. First of all, before I have my comments, I'd just like to read a few that I got today from Jennifer O'Rourke in Cobourg, Ontario. And she says it's not as cold there as we all think it is, and they don't have a lot of snow. So, anyway, my name is Sally Ramsey, and I am at 5775 Broadway Road, Nanaimo. This is from Jennifer. We would not be dedicating a good part of Lindley Valley as park today were it not for the contributions of many people within and beyond Nanaimo. These include people who signed petitions, came to meetings, helped with amazing contributions, aerial photography, that's specifically Mobach, inventories of the biodiversity in the valley, Joe Materi, monitoring the impact of development on the wetland habitats and the animal species who live there. As well, quietly behind the scenes, Save Lindley Valley West received important research and legal support from University of Victoria's Environmental Law Clinic, especially Calvin Sanborn, Deborah Curran, and Ben Arsenault, who you remembered, who did a report here in Council, in Chambers rather. From West Coast Environmental Law, especially Deborah Carlson and Andrew Gage, these people generously provided their time, insights, and expertise about environmental law, especially in relation to civic government. In addition, several senior officials with the Provincial Ministry of the Environment offered helpful information about financial and legal strategies for protecting environmentally sensitive ecosystems that are privately owned. As a member of the core group of Save Lindley Valley West, and from far away in Cobourg, Ontario, I invite you to thank these people who have made it possible to protect more of Lindley Valley. And from far away in Cobourg, I can say that it should not have required the huge investment of time by many people over a 3-year period to persuade a civic government that its duty is to protect the land it occupies. Ever the politician is our Jennifer. Anyway, I was going to proceed with the slideshow because a lot of these are pictures I've taken and also Joanne. But I'm here to share some of these photos of Lindley Valley Park and to add my appreciation for the dedication tonight of this area as parkland. All the pictures you see here are of that area that is now park. For many years, I have tramped the trails with my border collies, up the cliffs, down the valleys, and around the ponds. Every day, every season has held new delights. I thought I knew Lindley Valley as well as anyone could. When earlier this year, a good chunk of the land in Lindley Valley was purchased for park, thus extending the existing Caudle Lake Park by 195 acres, approximately, I was ecstatic. I thought this day would never arrive. Since this time, I have increased the range and direction of my hikes, and one of my favorite new areas to explore is onto the ridges south of the towers. I was amazed to find a whole new network of beaver ponds on top of the ridges. From here, one can look down on the canopy of giant maples, firs, hemlocks, and cedars growing out of the depths of the quietest parts of the valley. Ravens and eagles soar the updrafts near the cliffs. In the distance, one can see Gabarola Island, Mount Benson, Texada, and the snow peaks of the mainland. There are many people who visit the area, enjoying it in very different ways. It is my hope that Lindley Valley Park will be left as it is for the time being, but when any changes are planned, it is my expectation that the public users of the park will be consulted openly and often for their ideas and input. Thank you all for leaving this lasting legacy for the citizens of Nanaimo. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, yeah.
Move receipt of the delegation.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? And then we're going to move into the staff recommendation. There's a motion that council receive the report, which we've done, and we'll go into the bylaw. And
We haven't done the report yet, Your Worship.
sorry.
We have not done the report yet.
Okay, so that the motion that council receive the report pertaining to.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And then the bylaw. Note that in order to proceed with the bylaw, it must be passed by a 2/3 vote of all council members, minimum of 6 votes in favor. And the first motion is...
Can I make the first one?
Yes.
Okay. I move that Linley Valley Park Dedication Bylaw 2014, number 7204, to dedicate land for park purposes, pass first reading.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion
And I move
carries.
that Linley Valley Park Dedication Bylaw 2014, number 7204, pass second reading.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion
Councillor
carries.
Bestwick.
And
Councillor Bestwick.
Councillor Bestwick, do you want to do the third one?
Been paying attention to
That's
where,
okay. It's this one right here.
I thought that you were
Here we go, right here.
in Linley Valley Park Dedication Bylaw 2014, number 7204, passed third reading. Thank you, Councillor Patrick.
That, you're going to second that for him, though. Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. So, done. Yeah, well done. Well, that makes it official. So congratulations to everyone involved, because preservation of the land is a one-time thing. If you don't make every effort to preserve it, when you do, it's probably gone forever. Councillor Patsy, did you want to make a comment? No? Councillor Bestwick. Oh, sorry.
Your Worship, I just didn't have the opportunity when the delegation was making the presentation, but I just wish to compliment the ladies that approached us and their efforts and energies, their commitment and their passion and perseverance to bring forward this very important matter that we just approved to be dedicated as parkland. And I think it's a signal to our entire community that when you put your heart and soul into something and you never say never, that good things happen, and good things happen as a result of good people and quality. So thank you very much for your efforts, energy, and passion. Thank you.
Good point. Councillor Gibb.
Just want to say thank you to the council. After some 20 years of in the 1996 OCP, we downzoned the property basically by trying to control it. That changed in 2008 to make it developable. But this council, with the help of the community, put aside a phenomenal legacy. I think we're not into it for 9 million either. I think we're into it for 5.4. Phenomenal piece of land. If anybody hasn't been there, go there, walk it. It's phenomenal. We're just so lucky to have that, and for our future, it's probably one of the best icons this community will ever have. So I appreciate the fact after 20 years that land is protected. So appreciate it. And thanks for your work.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Your Worship. For me, this is probably one of the most gratifying resolutions we've come to tonight, and I just want to personally thank the committee for their very, very hard work and for the trek she took us through to help persuade us. It didn't take much persuasion, but I also want to compliment the ladies that like Sally and Joanne and Evelyn and whoever did the photography. I think it would be an amazing gift. I would purchase a tabletop version of that book, and could go. All the donations could go for future environmental acquisitions. So I think maybe you should look into having that published. I think it would be an amazing thing to do. Thank you for saving the Linley Valley.
Great. Councillor Patrick.
Well, Your Worship, I first of all want to know whose dog was off leash in these pictures.
Okay, Sally, you're busted.
Just to say that it's been a tough road. There were many phone calls, many visits. Joanne and Sally and Edna, and of course Jennifer O'Rourke and Corbett now has also done a fabulous job on this. You know, some of our terms are coming to an end in a week, and I want you to know that this particular vote was worth every day of the last 6 years. Thank you.
Good point. Councillor Brennan.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, this too is a highlight of my time at the city, being able to do this and being able to thank you, the four of you, for the hard work that you did. And I just will add that the library downtown is adding a new section within the next little while, whereby you can go and publish your own books. There will be a self-publishing area upstairs. So just a note to tell you that there are opportunities in town to self-publish a book with those pictures. So good luck with that.
Great, thank you. I just add my, add my comments. I'm very, very pleased as well. As a matter of fact, I did have the occasion to take a quick visit there with Tamara Cunningham, the lady sitting there in the media with her head down, working diligently there. And we had an area that was really breathtaking. You came out on this ridge, you look down, there's a small lake along there. Yeah, you know, it's the type of thing that I'm just ever so pleased that you had the commitment to stay with it, because even though it looked challenging at the beginning, the end result was there. So it shows that if you have the will, you can change all kinds of opinions and get the right decision made. And I think this was the right decision. So thank you for your efforts. Okay, now with that, we're going to move into item 8A, the 2014 election results. And the purpose is to advise Council of the 2014 election result. We do have 4 delegations here. And I just want to point out that to the delegations that basically what we're doing here tonight is simply receiving confirmation from staff advising of the 2014 election results. So if any of the 4 delegations that want to speak to matters related to what we're hearing, which is the election results, they can certainly feel free to do so. If it is more where people have concerns about the actions of any individual member of council, I just simply want to point out that this matter is before Elections BC, and really we as a council have absolutely no jurisdiction whatsoever in the issue. So, you know, I just hope and encourage you to avoid personal attacks on this item, since really all we're discussing is the election results. So we have 4 individuals. The first delegation is Mr. Dominic Jones. Mr. Jones?
And Your Worship?
Yes.
Just a reminder, because of 4 delegations, it'll be 5 minutes each.
Okay, 5 minutes each. Yeah, there was some uncertainty as to whether there was 3 or 4, but it is 4.
I believe we have 4 delegations so far.
So up to 5 minutes, sir. Yep.
My name is Dominic Jones, 6529 Groveland Drive. I'm here tonight to make Council aware that I have filed a complaint with Elections BC concerning the election campaign of Mrs. Diane Brennan. My complaint concerns 4 instances of unlawful advertising under Section 45(3)(a) of the Local Elections Campaign Financing Act. In a Nanaimo Daily News article on November 20th, Mrs. Brennan is reported to have admitted to the unlawful advertising. She claims she was unaware of the rules.
Okay, sir. Just a moment.
Is also
just a moment, sir, please. Go ahead.
If we look at the report, we're talking about receiving this for information. It's advising of the Council 2014 election results. We're not talking about election financing. We're not talking about any of these things that are unrelated to the topic which is in this report. So if the delegation is going to continue, I would like it if he would continue based on the election results. that are in this report, not about the financing.
Okay, and reason, sir, for that is perhaps is self-evident, is that if we want to get into the allegations that are made, and I understand what your point is, but nonetheless, this is something that we as a council can't make any determination.
I am
or opinion.
merely here to advise, sir.
So that's why, I mean, if it's respectful and you're pointed out unbiasedly, then, we're certainly welcome to continue. But we're not here to attack an individual member of council. We're here to get confirmation of the 2014 election.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
I would disagree with you in that.
Okay.
If the delegation is advising us of his complaint to Elections BC, he needs to do that to Elections BC. This is not the platform to talk about those complaints. This is about the election results that are currently within this report.
Okay, well, I'll uphold that.
Okay, could I just then clarify and say that the primary matter that I want to discuss tonight isn't whether or not Mrs. Brennan broke election laws. Rather, my main concern is that the election results have been subverted as a consequence of her actions and now stand as an injustice.
Okay, sir. Again, you're dealing with something that we have no jurisdiction over.
No, I understand.
It's Election BC alone that can make that determination.
I am merely, you're being asked to receive the results.
We're asked.
I am merely trying to inform this council that the results are in dispute. Nothing else.
Okay. And that's
all I'm trying to do.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Are you going to continue?
I will continue if I'm allowed to.
Okay.
Thank you.
But as long as it's not a personal attack, that's the issue.
I'm trying to establish.
I'm just saying to you, sir,
inform the council.
It cannot be a personal attack.
No, I will not attack anyone.
Thank you.
I filed my complaint after independently investigating claims on social media stating that Mrs. Brennan had used Twitter on election day in contravention of the rules. I am a former investigative journalist in both South Africa and Canada. I also have a background as an internet consultant to major corporations. The primary matter, sorry.
Councillor Brennan?
Yeah, I think the instructions that you gave to the delegation are that the issues that he's talking about, the alleged facts that he's bringing forward, are part of his complaint to Elections BC. They are not something that this council has jurisdiction over, and so I'm not sure why he's being permitted to continue on. He's made his complaint to Elections BC, and that's where it sits. And until Elections BC makes a determination, I don't think that it's appropriate to make his case here.
Point taken. That's the thing, sir. I mean, we can't continue on with a personal attack. I'm not suggesting it is a personal attack, but I mean, it's directed against an individual. And all we're really doing now is getting our staff to confirm what the results of the 2014 election are. And if you want to deal with an individual, thanks, Bill, that may or may not have an issue with Elections BC, that is a matter for only Elections BC to decide on. We do not have jurisdiction. We cannot make a decision on the matter. Thanks, Bill. And it's simply something that is beyond our jurisdiction. So we really don't like to get into issues like that. And also it gets into the gray area of litigation on statements that are made. So, we have really nothing we want to discuss now. If it's going to lead to litigation, I suggest you be careful on what you're suggesting, only as advice.
Yes, I understand. Would you permit me to proceed, or would you like me to stop?
Well, if it's going to be a continued attack against an individual, then I don't think you need to continue. If you want to talk about the results, which is what we're discussing here as a council, please do.
What I'm really trying to do is to provide council with information to suggest that these results do not fairly reflect the intent of the electorate.
Okay. Well, we don't know that, sir, until Elections BC.
And you have a report in front of you that says that these were the final results, and there's nothing else you can do but accept.
Well, maybe you get our staff to confirm with what the final results are. They are our, as a city, final results.
Yes.
Now, Election BC may intervene and may have a different view. We don't know that. But all we can do is provide the city of Nanaimo with the official results from the 2014 election. And did you want to make a comment on that at all? It's optional, of course, but if you wish to.
Well, Your Worship, I guess just what's in my report is the 2014 general election results as are provided. Of course, they're always subject to any Supreme Court ruling, but they are declared, they are official, they are final until the Supreme Court determines otherwise.
Only a court can upset it.
Is there any way that I can submit my statement in writing so that it is on the record that these results were in dispute at the time?
Well, they're in dispute from your standpoint. We
Yes.
haven't anything as a city. We haven't received any indication to suggest that otherwise, that it is under dispute. I'm not arguing the
I'm
point.
disputing them, and I'd like
Maybe you are,
that
and
entered
you're
into the
disputing them with
record.
whom, sir? Who are you disputing them with? Election BC.
No, with that the election results, while those are the results.
Okay, well,
I do
these
not
are
dispute
official
that those are
results.
the results.
Yeah.
But I do say that the results are subject to controversy, and that needs to be recorded, and that's all I ask.
You can,
and that my
if you have a
statement
copy,
be
absolutely
accepted
leave it with staff, sir.
without reading it.
Well, have you got more than that?
Well, I haven't been given my 5 minutes.
Well,
but
no, you're up to 7 now. But I mean,
I know.
all I'm saying is, just listen. All I'm saying is that as long as it's not a personal attack, because we can't deal with
Unfortunately,
that.
I cannot keep the individual's name out of it, Your Worship.
Well, but are you going to continue with a personal attack?
It's not a personal attack.
I'm not sure what it is then.
It's simply stating facts. It's not saying that
No, facts, according to you. Okay, but I'm just saying.
Facts according to what was told to a newspaper.
Your Worship, these facts, this narrative is properly taken to Elections BC for a determination. If they make a determination, they will advise us. But it isn't properly brought here because there's no jurisdiction here to deal with that.
Okay.
I dispute that.
Well, you can
I
dispute
believe
it.
you have the right to hear the information, and but if you do not wish to hear it, I can't do anything about that.
No, we don't. Well, it isn't whether we wish to or not. We can't act on it. You could provide all the
I accept
information in the
that.
world. It's not in our jurisdiction.
I accept
So
that.
what is the point of it?
The point is merely to put on record that there were circumstances regarding these results that were subject to dispute.
It is on record with BC Elections BC.
It's not on record at the
That's where
city.
the record
That's
is.
my concern.
It
the city's
isn't
record-
properly placed in front
Okay,
of the
just one
city.
second. Councillor Kipp, did you want to comment here?
Well, I was trying to ask a question of the delegation. Was this point to manifest your complaint on the city records? Is that your purpose?
That's my purpose, is to make sure that this body, with this council, the future council, it is on record that there is and was concern regarding this election. That is all.
Okay. You know, that's fair enough. The point is, though, that until we get the final ruling from Election BC, and assuming that there is a ruling one way or the other, it's somewhat academic.
It's very real to the voters of the city that if somebody did something that wasn't correct and their
Yeah, but that would
their
be
wishes,
determined.
in
That
the
would be
election
determined
is-
by Election BC, sir.
It will not be determined by Elections BC. That's the thing.
Well, we certainly don't have the decision to make on that.
The only decision that can be made is by the candidate.
Is what?
By the candidate herself.
Okay, well, I've heard no discussion on that. So.
Well, if we do not want to hear the information, I can't make you. I do wish that my statement be entered into the record. I will
Yes,
not
I've
read
suggested
it.
already you could leave it with staff, sir.
I will do that.
Yeah, please. Thank you. Now, the next delegation is Mr. Ian Gartsor. And Mr. Gartsor, you also have up to 5 minutes.
Mayor and Council, Ian Gartshaw, 353 7th Street in Nanaimo. I'm going to begin by doing a very different track. I'm going to begin by saying I appreciate you. I believe this is the last council meeting for a Monday evening that you will be here. All
That's
of
correct.
you, that is.
That's correct.
And I know that this has been a very difficult 3 years for a lot of different reasons. And I know that you tend to get blasted very easily when people are not happy with you. And sometimes people have been angry in some very inappropriate ways. And you have heard me stand here and say, I am sorry that that has happened. And I want you to know that I'm grateful you hung in there until the end of your terms. I am. I also am aware that this election, throughout the province, not only in Nanaimo, we saw a higher voter turnout. We saw more engaged people, which of course is what is about to be presented to you, are the election results. And while I wasn't totally happy with all of the results, and I don't think anybody's going to be, at least we know that more people came out, participated, listened to the candidates, and placed their X beside the people that they wanted to see voted, elected. And for that, I'm very grateful. And I'm hopeful that this means that we as electorate are becoming more engaged, more responsible, as the electorate needs to be, to decide who's going to be our future mayor and council and beyond. And so I am encouraged by that. And I'm also encouraged that this council is aware that there has been a complaint. And I encourage whatever you can do to support that process with Elections BC so that we, the electors, might know that all that can be done is being done to clear the air, to decide what needs to be done, and to move on from here. And so all I'm really here to say is thank you. I appreciate you. I have said before, I'm glad I haven't been sitting in one of your seats, even though I did try 1 year, because it's not always an easy job. And I think that you are not appreciated as much as you should be. And so for that, I am grateful to be here to say thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcher. Appreciate that. Now, the next delegation is Ms. Louise Guilfoy. You want to tip down? Yeah, great.
I probably won't be allowed to say most of what I want to say. So I just want to say that the outgoing council, you guys have done some good stuff, but you guys have been really marred in some controversies. And outgoing, there is still controversy, and I feel it's really unfortunate that there's a black cloud that the whole city knows about that's hanging over the new council coming in. So for that reason, I would like to ask Diane Brennan to step down.
I don't know that it's appropriate at this time to do that.
I think you've overstepped your bounds, not only here, but...
Okay, I have. All right.
I was elected by people who believe that I represent their interests.
Can you tell me how you got my email address?
We've had this discussion. I've told you.
I don't know, actually.
Remember, just 1 second. No. Councillor Brennan, just 1 second. Remember that what we're dealing with here now is dealing with the 2014 election results. Okay?
I understand.
And
there's a lot of reasons
how she got an email is really not germane to what we're dealing with tonight. Okay.
Okay. There are complaints. It's not just one complaint. There are multiple complaints.
You know, Louise, you and I've had this discussion, and I explained to you. And you mentioned today on the Facebook page where you're all posting about this that you were filing a complaint. I encourage you to do that.
Yep, I have done.
And then live by the outcome of that.
IOPC and Elections BC. So we'll see what happens. So I don't think it's fair that you're on. Thanks.
I get that.
Okay, the next delegation is Ms. Janet Irvine.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. Janet Irvine, reside in Nanaimo at 609 First Street. And I'd like to clarify first that I did mention to the Legislative Services, actually 2 staff members in that office today, that I am not planning any personal attacks. I'm not identifying anyone personally.
Thank you.
I feel I have something to contribute. Before I do start, before the clock starts, I feel I have something to...
I'll restart the clock right now. There you go.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to clarify that first. Thank you. Firstly, I want to mention that as some of you are not returning to the chamber in your capacity as elected officials, I would like to offer my thanks for your service and the best to you in your future endeavors. The staff report on tonight's agenda advises that the official voter turnout in Nanaimo in the 2014 general election was 34.1%. Although this was up from 26.9% in the election held in 2011, should it not have been much higher? I must say that the use of social media during the election proceedings period, which began on September 30th and ended on November 15th, appears to have provided ample opportunity for irregular activities to be conducted by some candidates for elected office and by some registered third-party sponsor organizations. It certainly does appear that there are flaws and inconsistencies in the provisions of the Local Elections Campaign Financing Act, which governs online campaign advertising that is conducted during the election proceedings period, as well as the enforcement of same. It appeared to me that Elections BC did provide adequate resources for election participants, both online and in print. Elections BC compliance officers administer the campaign advertising and financing rules, but as it is not possible for them to monitor the social media campaign sites of all candidates for elected office and registered third-party sponsors in BC's local elections, unfortunately, most, if not all, alleged infractions of the rules are complaint-driven. I can tell you that more than one candidate for council in Nanaimo had posts on their social media campaign sites on general voting day, posts that were related to their campaign. I believe that a public forum for new candidates only, which was organized by a registered third-party sponsor organization, actually took place in mid-September, which was well before the end of the nomination period, which was October the 10th. It appeared that not all who were registered with Elections BC as third-party sponsor organizations were aware that their online sites were to be clearly identified as such to the electorate, including the contact information for their registered representative. And there was an instance where one third-party sponsor organization also appeared to be unaware that it was required to keep its social media advertising separate from the candidate's advertising. I will provide a couple of examples of inconsistencies in the legislation. Some activities are considered to be offenses only if they take place on general voting day and not on the two advance voting days. For example, campaigning within 100 meters of a voting place. It is an offense if a candidate or registered third-party sponsor advertises on the respective social media campaign sites on general voting day. On the other hand, it appears to be acceptable for a member of the public to take a photo of candidates conducting their activities on general voting day and then post the photo and commentary on a social media site that the individual member of the public operates for purposes of the election. It appears that it may be acceptable for a candidate for elected office to use their social media campaign site in order to offer an incentive to voters in exchange for their support. It also appears that if one candidate does so, then it may be acceptable for another candidate to do it. Lastly, as democracy involves not only rights but also responsibilities, I would encourage any member of the electorate who has comments and/or suggestions on improving the legislation that governs municipal elections in BC that they may want to submit them to the Ministry of Community, Sport and Cultural Development in Victoria. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see no questions. Appreciate that. Now, the staff recommendation is that the motion that Council receive for information the report pertaining to the 2014 election results. And moved. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And we'll then move back into item 8B, and that is key date calendar for 2015. Purpose to obtain council approval for the key date calendar for 2015. And there's a motion there. Okay. Moved and second. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. The Shaw Auditorium reconfiguration. Item C, purpose to provide an update on action to be taken regarding Shaw Auditorium seating arrangements as recommended through the Council's Governance Review Committee. And we do have a delegation on it, Mr. Fred Taylor, and there's going to be an overhead as well that staff will present at some point too. Okay, Mr. Taylor, if you want to come forward, sir. There's on the screen behind me is the current configuration and the suggested new configuration. Welcome, sir.
My name is Fred Taylor. I disagree with the proposed diagram there, the new configuration. It almost appears to me that you're going to create a huddle in the center of the room here with the speaker in the middle of you and all the staff hiding you on the sides. And I think you're going to lead to a board up there with everybody's name on to see how each person voted, because you're not going to expose yourself to the complete audience here when it's full. I don't agree with the expenditure because of what it's doing. Everybody's wide open here. We can see you. The audience can see you. When you close you up into a little horseshoe and staff sitting on each side, whoever's keeping track of the vote on one side is going to have trouble. Keep an eye on what's just beyond him on that same side to see where he's looking at you right now. I think it's an expenditure that's not needed. Thank you.
Okay, sir, thank you. Now, if staff would like to give us an update on the seating arrangement, no further comment on it other than what's behind me?
No, Your Worship, the recommendation is on the agenda.
Okay, the staff recommendation that Council receive for information the report pertaining to the Shaw Auditorium reconfiguration. Councillor Brennan?
I would move that Council receive the report.
Okay. Seconder? Second discussion. Councillor Brennan, did you want to comment?
Well, I was just going to point out that this new configuration is...
Sorry, Councillor Brennan, do you want to slide the microphone over towards you a bit?
The new configuration is very close to the configuration that we used to have in the old City Hall in the first, the old one, the sort of almost heritage one with the podium and all of that. And having worked in that kind of setting, it's quite good because you are speaking to one another, quite clearly speaking to one another and having your business discussion with each other. And I think it promotes the sense that this is a council business meeting and we're here to speak to one another and make decisions. But there's the podium is right in the center, perfect. So it's good, I like it.
Okay, valid point. Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Worship. The motion is to receive the report, which is informing us that we're proceeding with this configuration. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Worship. Council already gave us direction on 2013 to proceed with this.
Thank you. So if I recall, that the direction that Council provided was to come up with options for reconfiguration, and we've arrived at this configuration. My one comment that I have is that this podium for people that happen to be in wheelchairs is not conducive, and it doesn't work well, and it's unfriendly for members of our public that come in that are wheelchair. It's not very accessible, and it's frankly, I think, embarrassing and humiliating to the people that come in this century to this state-of-the-art facility when we're talking about reconfiguring and not having a podium that would meet those needs. And secondly, my second comment is that if we don't require the podium, because that podium is rather large, and if and when that podium is stationed between us, between the new horseshoe configuration, there will be some sight lines that I think that are probably compromised. So I would like to know if that podium could be moved in and out of the equation as it's appropriate, so it's transportable and not a physical impediment. So those are my two comments.
Ms. Ferrero, do you have any comment on that, or Mr. Swaby? Go ahead.
Your Worship, excellent point regarding the microphone, and we'll take that under advisement and ensure that we have it user-friendly for wheelchair accessible, and look into putting it on wheels, I guess, so we can move it in and out as well. We'll have a look at that.
Yeah, and I might just add, and I totally agree with Councillor Beswick, you know, for anyone that has challenges and any people with handicaps required to have a chair, it's impossible. I can remember one event here, we had a little voice, remember, quite a little girl, she was about 6 or 7 years old, and I could hear her voice, but I couldn't see a person there. And you know, I think the other thing to remember is that the placement, the new configuration, is because really sometimes we have difficulty, we as a council have difficulty in hearing the delegations. And so I think if they were right in front of us and if we had more of a horseshoe, it's really the council that is supposed to be hearing the delegations, and the audience is just there to observe. And I think that might make it a little easier for council in the future. I like the idea, but that's going to be something the new council can continue on with. So it's been moved and seconded, voted on. So we're going to move on to the next item here.
No, it has not been voted on.
No, the delegation's been done for Taylor. Sorry. So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And then request to change the public hearing schedule. Item D.
I move the recommendation.
Okay, is there a seconder?
I'll second your motion.
Okay, I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving in.
Your Worship, can I ask a question? Could you please let me know who was opposed on the last motion? Council?
I think it was unanimous, was it not? But
no.
Sorry?
Just Councillor Kipp.
I couldn't hear what you said. Let me turn on your microphone.
Councillor Kipp was opposed, is
You were
what I saw.
opposed? Okay, and the balance of council is in favor? So, yes, if the records show that, I'm sorry, I missed that. Thank you. Okay, so we're into item E, 2014-2018 Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw, and then the purpose is to amend the 2014-2018 Financial Plan to reflect changes that have occurred since the bylaw was last amended on May 26th of 2014.
Information, the report pertaining to Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw 2014, number 7197.02.
Is there a seconder? Moved and seconded. Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Now we have the three bylaws.
I'd move that Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw 2014, number 7197.02, to reflect the changes that have occurred since May 2014, pass first reading.
Moved and seconded. Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
And that Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw 2014, number 7197.02, pass second reading.
Second, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
And that Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw 2014, number 7197.02, pass third reading.
Seconder? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Are you opposed? No. Oh, sorry. Yes.
I was not opposed to voting for the change of public hearing. I was opposed to the reconfiguration.
That's correct. Thank you. That's what I understood. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, move into item F, the 2014 revenue anticipation borrowing requirements. And the purpose is pursuant to section 177 of the Community Charter. Council may, by bylaw, provide for the temporary borrowing of funds required to meet the current lawful expenditures of the City of Nanaimo. This is something that is passed at about this point every year, so that the city's business can continue. And Councillor Anderson.
For information, the report pertaining to revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw 2014, number 7203.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And now the bylaws. Were you going to do those?
I'd move that revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw 2014, number 7203, to provide for temporary borrowing of funds required to meet the current lawful expenditures of the City of Nanaimo, pass first reading.
Okay. Second. Move. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
And that revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw 2014, number 7203, pass second reading.
Okay, and second, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And finally?
That revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw 2014 number 7203 pass third reading.
Seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving over leaf to user rate increase bylaws. Purpose is to provide background on bylaws related to water, sewer, and garbage fees on tonight's agenda. And the
I move the recommendations point 1, 2, and 3.
Did you leave the engine running, or what's happening here? Oh, I see. Moved and seconded. Okay. Can we can do all three? 1, 2, and 3 at that one?
The motion to receive the information, yes, Your Worship. The bylaws needs to be individuals.
Yeah, exactly. So we can do those ones. And Councillor Paggi, you did all 3 bullets there too. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Now into the bylaws. Did you want to do the bylaws?
There's a lot of them.
Well, I know. That's why we're asking you, of course.
But I guess I will. So I'll take a drink of water first. So, Sewer Regulation and Charge Amendment Bylaw 2014 number 2496.27 to amend sanitary sewer user rates. Pass first reading.
Seconder, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And
that Sewer Regulation and Charge Amendment Bylaw 2014 number 2496.27 pass second reading.
Second, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And third reading?
That's Sewer Regulation and Charge Amendment Bylaw 2014 number 2496.27 pass third reading.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Now, do you have the strength to continue, or should we find somebody else?
Yeah, I can continue.
Okay.
Oh, great.
Councillor Johnstone, please.
We'll take over from the youngest.
No, please.
I think someone older than you, actually.
Please.
That Waterworks Rate and Regulation Amendment Bylaw 2014 number 7004.09 pass first reading.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed?
That Waterworks Rate and Regulation Amendment Bylaw 2014 number 7004.09 pass second reading.
Seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And
that Waterworks Rate and Regulation Amendment Bylaw 2014 number 7004.09 pass third reading.
Seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
I'm good at solid waste.
Okay, go ahead. Go for it.
Move that Municipal Solid Waste Collection Amendment Bylaw 2014, number 7128.05, pass first reading.
Seconder. All those in favor? All passed. Sorry.
Move that Municipal Solid Waste Collection Amendment Bylaw 2014, number 7128.05, pass second reading.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
And that Municipal Solid Waste Collection Amendment Bylaw 2014, 7128.05, pass third reading.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Development permit DP 887 at 4989 Wills Road. Purpose to obtain council authorization to issue a development permit for a 79-unit personal care facility.
Move the recommendation.
Do you want me to put your microphone on for you? Okay. You moved it, did you?
There's someone here to speak, actually.
Okay.
Not by that one.
Okay.
No, well, then I'll just move the recommendation.
Okay.
Second.
Moved and seconded. No other discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll move into the development permit DP 905 at 200, 238, and 290 Franklin Street. And the purpose is to obtain council authorization to issue a development permit for a 5-story mixed-use development with 1 variance. And we have 1 delegation. Actually, it's made up of Mr. Tony James, an architect, with James Architecture Incorporated, Mr. Bill Derby, and Mr. Darren Moss on behalf of the owner. So welcome, gentlemen. If you would like to... we'll have Mr. James. It looks like they're tapping you first, are they?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. James, go ahead, sir.
Yes, good evening, Your Worship, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Tony James with KPL James Architecture. My client Bill Derby and Darren Moss are also here. As I mentioned, if you have any questions, I'll be just making a brief presentation only. And I'd just like to start by reiterating a couple of comments that were part of our design panel presentation on September the 25th for this project. And really, the intent of the project is to develop the site in a way that both preserves the existing positive aspects of the site, adds to the urban fabric in a sensitive manner, and respects the ideas put forth in the urban design guidelines. Specifically, we're talking about preserving and upgrading the existing warehouse portion of the building. And then we're proposing a light and airy addition to the basically concrete base to distinguish the warehouse and also to visually minimize the overall perceived mass of the building. On the point of mass, the density of the project, as you may be aware, is well within the allowable floor area ratio for T2 zoning. We've also gone to efforts to respect and respond to the downtown urban design plan and guidelines for study area H, especially subscribing to the healthy concept of mixed use. I'm going to go through the slides fairly quickly and just kind of point out some of the highlights as I go through. The first 2 or 3 slides really are just computer-generated 3D views of the site from different angles. The top one is what you would see from Franklin, and the lower illustration here is from the intersection of Franklin and Wallace. If I could have the next slide, please. Again, just going through different views of the site. And the thing, I guess, that all of these views will point out that I'm sure you'll appreciate is the efforts that we've gone through to really make a very interesting looking building, a nice addition to this part of town. We have a great deal of articulation in the massing, vertically and horizontally, and we also have a great deal of contrast between the base, which is the old warehouse portion, and the light glass and thin horizontal lines of the proposed additions. More views. The site plan, Franklin's along the bottom of the slide with Wallace on the right and Robson on the left. Really just shows the organization. The main entrance is from Franklin to the residential units. A secondary entrance for the residents is off the surface parking at the north of the property. Underground parking is accessed from Robson, and then along the Franklin frontage at the pedestrian level will be a series of commercial spaces that are accessed from kind of a terracing, landscaped, stepped, plantered pedestrian sidewalk. And then on the top floor of the building, this large green roof that provides access to 4 of the uppermost units on the site. A typical floor plan here just shows the intent of what we're doing here is really providing a wide variety of suite sizes and configurations and layouts. And we're even going to the point, which is kind of unique. We're proposing that some of the units be designed just with the fixed core elements, so plumbing and stuff related to kitchens and bathrooms, with the rest of the suite left open to the potential purchaser or resident who might want to custom design the interior to their own taste instead of just whatever the market typically puts out there. So that's something that we're quite interested in. As we are in sustainable design, I should mention that too. That's just the top floor. Oops, I seem to be. Oops, there we go. Okay, thanks. Then the next 2 slides just show the 4 elevations, north, south, east, and west. And the last slide shows a series of cross sections cut through the building, east, west, and north, south. Just wanted to go back to the beginning again. I'd just like to touch in my closing remarks. I think I've hit the highlights of the project, I hope so. I'd just like to touch on the two variances that are being requested. One is to reduce loading bay from 2 down to 1. The size of the commercial units and the number of residential units simply doesn't warrant more than 1 loading bay here. And the second, more importantly, is the height variance that we are asking for. Really, it's to add 1 more story to the building. The primary reason for that is so that we can make the building as interesting from a massing point of view and appearance as we possibly can. It allows us, by taking some of the what would otherwise be built mass below or within the 12-meter allowed height, taking that out and put it on another level above, which allows us to do a lot of stepping back and terracing of the massing. So we think it will make a lot interesting building, and is very much in keeping with the urban design guidelines for this part of the downtown. I think I'll stop there. I think I've hit the highlights, and obviously we'll be able
Well, thank you. It's very, very interesting. I'm just kind of curious about, is the footprint basically is much the same as the existing structure? The reason for the question, I understand that the owners may have or are considering purchasing the vacant lot on the corner. And will the building encompass that whole block, or will it just be the footprint that it exists now? Maybe Mr. Derby can shed some light on this.
comparable. Perhaps Mr. Derby could address that.
Sure.
better.
Mr. Derby, welcome, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In response to your question, Your Worship, we have indeed purchased the property to the west of the existing city annex. The reason for doing that was to increase the density of the site, to provide some opportunity for in-building or underground parking, and to create an opportunity to extend the building to the Robson Street setback as required by the urban design guidelines.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Patchy.
Thank you. My question may be for Mr. Moss, which has to do with the seismic standard of this new building. As you know, one of the reasons that the city divested itself on it was the tremendous cost of bringing this up to snuff. So can you talk a little bit about how that will be achieved in this building?
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you know, as we got into the building, we are in there now doing some limited demolition to further explore the existing structure and to define what that structural upgrade will look like. But certainly the existing warehouse will be seismically upgraded. We haven't defined the details of that. And the basic concept of this building is the warehouse remains, the rest of the structure around it comes off. So the warehouse will be seismically upgraded, the rest of the structure will be new and meet current code. So definitely the new design will meet that requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Worship. Well, congratulations on getting started. Could you please tell me where the restaurant is located?
If you're looking at the upper rendering there, it's to the left. So it's the Robson Street. So that lot, if you can imagine the parking lot that's right beside the keg, between that corner between Franklin and Robson now, that lot has been added to the project, and the building extruded up towards Robson to create that parkade that Bill was talking about and the density and fronting on Robson.
Thank you. My second and only question is the proposed start date.
The proposed start date is subject to market still. I think that we're optimistic about the market timing, but we don't have 100% confirmation on either the construction costs at this point, because we're just moving into detailed design, and there's a few other indicators in the market we'd like to see happen to give us the comfort to put this many residential units on the market in downtown.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe I just ask you, is there an opening date in mind? Do you have when this will be duly completed? It's about a 3-year build-out, is it?
I'm sort of rely back to the previous answer, but the build period for this project will probably be under more like a year and a half. And the start date is really the critical piece. So once we have comfort in the market and it's moving in the right direction, I think it would be more like a year and a half build out from that date forward. But we'll certainly be making a decision to meet the requirements of the original proposal and contract as well. So.
Well, I just want to say, I don't see any, unless there's any other further questions from council. But congratulations, it's a great plan, and I think it's going to do a lot for what really, I guess, amounts to a building in the old city quarter, or closest to the old city quarter than is the downtown core. You know, to me, it's a win-win because I think it's going to be an upgraded building. It's going to be something that we can all be proud of, and I think it's going to take a derelict building and make something out of it. So congratulations on that. Councillor Anderson.
I just moved to receive the delegation that I was prepared to move the motion. So,
is there a seconder? Moving second. All those in favor? Okay. Councillor Anderson.
So I move that council issue development permit number DP 905 at 200, 238, and 290 Franklin Street, subject to lot consolidation, including a variance to increase the maximum allowable building height to 15.83 meters.
Moved and seconded. I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Good luck with the project. Next item is the development variance permit DVP 247 at 6900 Island Highway. Purpose is to obtain council authorization to allow a fascia sign to project above the roof line of a building. We've had several of these before. It's all related to Tim Hortons and their new configuration, and they're just wanting to get approved like the other ones.
Staff's recommendation.
Okay. Well, I haven't got to that point yet. We're waving around our arms here wildly. So, is there anyone in attendance tonight that would like to speak to matters related to, in respect of DVP 247?
I'd like to move staff's recommendation.
Okay. Move and second. All those in favor? Oh, no. Councillor Beswick, right?
My apologies for hitting the button there late. Your Worship, you alluded to the fact that we've had several of these. And clearly there's a cost associated with this aspect of our sign bylaw for when people are repurposing their building or they're redeveloping their fascias, when they're bringing them up to a more contemporary aesthetic standard. And so there's a time thing here, there's a cost thing here, there's a time and a cost for our staff, there's a time and a cost for the developer. How do we remove the requirement to come before us to have a sign similar to this and all the ones that have preceded it that are quote unquote above the roof line, when in fact it's a fascia that has been increased in height to be able to make it more aesthetically pleasing. It seems like a waste of time for me to have these being brought to us time and time again. And how do we get rid of it?
Your Worship, certainly if council believes that signs above the roof line, which this is a valid way to do signage, you could do a couple things. You could ask for a report from staff on ways to amend the bylaw to allow it. You could remove the provision altogether and direct us to allow signs completely above the roof line. Or you can ask, I guess, for a more comprehensive review based on the whole bylaw. And I would suggest the first option because there are some limitations that you may want to consider in terms of how they relate to the roof line. And we could maybe come up with some criteria that meet sort of what we've been seeing as the trend and address that through an amendment in the bylaw.
Thank you. So once we deal with this, then can I bring... Okay, thanks.
Okay, any further discussion? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Councillor Beswick.
Your Worship, then if I may make a motion to direct staff to bring back a report as it relates to signs that are considered to be above the roof line and the implications of same. I don't know if that connects or not, the dots, but...
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion on this then, and I might just say that, you know, in principle, I support the concept, but, you know, here in this one, we're showing that it projects 0.46 meters above the roof line, and unless we do look at them on an individual basis, it's going to be kind of difficult to, what happens if one comes out that's 0.50 or 0.70 above the roof line, and you get into a gray area of how you're going to have a cookie cutter fix that'll work with every fascia sign that projects above the roof line.
So, Your Worship, regulations are always the minimum standard of many developments, but if you think of the auto industry, most of the car dealers have, I've forgotten what they're called, but they're certainly iconic parts of the building that project above the roof line. And we would look at ways to incorporate the way that the fast food and the auto industry has taken architectural features and put them into the signage vocabulary, and we'd try and come back with some options for council to consider.
Okay, I support that. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving into development variance permit DVP 248 at 159 Colvilton Trail. Purpose to obtain council authorization to vary the flanking side yard setback for an accessory building to allow the construction of a detached garage. And at this point, it's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to this DVP 248. Anyone in attendance that wants to speak to this matter? Seeing none.
Your Worship, I move that council issue development variance permit DVP 248 at 159 Colvilton Trail to reduce the required flanking yard setback from 4.0 meters to 1.5 meters, a proposed variance of 2.5 meters.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Overleaf to item L, development variance permit DVP 249 at 1105 Old Victoria Road. Purpose to obtain council authorization to vary the front yard setback to allow for construction of a single residential dwelling. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to DVP 249. Anyone in attendance would like to speak to matters related to the DVP at 1105 Old Victoria Road?
Your Worship, I so move, there being none, that council issue development variance permit DVP 249 at 1105 Old Victoria Road to reduce the front yard setback to 3.2 meters.
Moved and seconded. Okay, discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into rezoning application RA 338 at 2992 104th Street. Purpose to present a rezoning application for a property located at 2992 104th Street to rezone the subject property from single dwelling residential R1 and community service 1 CS1 to single dwelling residential small lot R2 in order to facilitate a small lot subdivision. And we do have a delegation, Mr. Fred Taylor. Mr. Taylor?
My name is Fred Taylor. I am opposed to this for a few reasons. I don't believe that it's sufficient funds to the city for being tax exempt for many years. I believe that it goes back to the question of how much land around a worship building that the city wants to allow for tax exemption. We also have, I believe, two issues here. Something for parkland upon subdivision of the land is one issue, and something for a community contribution for, in my issue, tax exemption for many years. If you look on the city website and look at the assessment of this land, it's been assessed and appraised by the local assessment office as recreation. It's listed as a recreational property. And yet we're giving it tax exemption. What should also follow, because it's on the list of tax exemption properties this year, is to delete it from the list if the rezoning happens. But I think it's insufficient funds for the two questions, something for parkland upon subdivision and something for community contribution. There's two amounts that we need to total up, and I believe it should be considerable more money. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Is there any staff comment on that, Mr. Lindsay? Do you have...
Worship, I guess I could speak to the two separate items that have been raised by the speaker. And first is the park area dedication that will be triggered by subdivision. This is a legislated requirement. It's 5% of the land or cash in lieu of the equivalent. So it's not based on what the property's been previously used for or how taxes have or have not been paid on that property to date. It's based simply on what the assessed value is at the time of subdivision. The second is the community contribution is in keeping with Council's policy of $1,000 per unit. And again, Council's policy doesn't take into account the taxation that has or has not been paid on any given site over recent history.
Me as a delegation yet, the 2013 assessed value was $381,000 as a piece of raw land. It was $31,000 for the little building. So 5% of 3 is $19,000, right? Right there, 5%. It's 19. So then you're looking at something for community contribution as well, which 50,000.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Councillor Besser?
It was just further to Mr. Taylor's last comment as it relates to the assessed value at 381 at 5%, if that's the number that's used to determine the, I don't know if, I think I'm reciting what was just said before me. And if I'm reciting what I just said before me, just clarification on whether or not how we determine the value of the community contribution on the assessed value is at what number to arrive at where we've arrived in the report.
To your worship, maybe I'll speak. There's really two separate issues here, and I'll try to speak to them separately. There's the money that's or cash in lieu or land that's obtained with any subdivision over 3 parcels, which this is. So what happens is prior to final adoption, there's actually, we don't go based on the assessment, but there's actually an appraisal done prior to final, and we get 5% of that appraisal. So it could be, it's a very good chance lately that the appraisals are actually higher than the assessed value that's been referred to here. So we'll actually have a cash contribution that possibly is higher than what's been cited. Again, the separate item being the community contribution is based simply on council's policy, and it's $1,000 per door, and that's how we've arrived at the $7,000. It's not based on the assessed value, the appraised value, or taxation that has been paid or not paid on that property.
Okay. Councillor Johnstone.
Thank you, Your Worship. With regard to Mr. Taylor's question about the tax exemption because of the church building, in the report, Mr. Taylor, it did indicate that the church would be removed as it has no heritage value, so there would be no PTE on that property after that fact, after the church was removed.
There now.
It's going to be removed apparently.
Okay, and the staff recommendation is there to receive the information in the report, and item 2 is to direct staff to secure road dedication if somebody feels so inclined.
So moved.
Thank you.
Receive for information report pertaining to zoning amendment bylaw 2014 4500.071.
We can do 1 and 2 together. Yeah, and do you want to move 2 as well, Bill?
Hand direct staff to secure road dedication, roadwork, street trees, lane dedication, building and orientation, community contribution prior to adoption of the bylaw. Should council support the bylaw at 3rd reading?
It's moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And then the bylaw?
The zoning amendment bylaw 2014 4500.071 RA 338 rezone part of 2992 104th Street from R1 to R2 past 1st reading.
Your Worship?
Yep.
We amended this bylaw at the beginning of the meeting, so if you could probably say as amended.
The one on white here.
Okay. So that is by rezoning the lands legally described as Lot A, Section 3 and 5, Wellington District Plan, VIP 64342, 2992 104th Street from single dwelling residential R1 and community service 1 CS1 to single dwelling residential small lot R2 as shown on the schedule.
Okay, and is there a seconder for that?
Second, Your Worship.
Second. Okay, discussion none. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And moving into the rezoning application.
Your Worship, but that was to pass first reading. We need to pass second reading as well.
Bylaws. So we're going into
we just did first reading.
Okay, first reading. Okay. And so
yeah, and then you got to do the second reading as well.
Second.
Yeah.
And who moved?
Second, Bishop.
But who moved it? Did you?
Well, the zoning amendment bylaw 2014 number 45071 passed the second reading.
And you second that. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We've done the two bylaws. Now we're going into rezoning application RA 339 at 1110, 1120, and 1140 Mon Road. And the purpose is to present a rezoning application for property located at that address on Mon Road to rezone the subject properties from light industrial I2 to industrial I4 in order to facilitate expansion of a medical marijuana facility.
Move staff's recommendation to receive the report for information.
Okay, is there a seconder? Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
I have a question, Your Worship. As related to the report on page 92, and it shows a map with the highlighting of the three properties in question, but it has a similar address right behind it, jogged out into the next property.
Then.
What is that, a contiguous piece with 1120, or is that separated in this bit? I'm not certain what that 1120 piece is.
Who's that, Mr. Lindsay? Who's going to
Yeah, Your Worship, that is in fact a separate property. I believe that is in fact 1120 Hooker Road, I believe.
Sorry? It's
separate property.
It is separate, but it seems to have the same address, though.
It has the same address, but it's, I believe it's off Hooker Road, not off of Mon Road.
Yeah, because there's a rock bluff there. There's not even a road access to that lot. Because Hooker ends.
I believe it's accessed by easement.
Oh, easement. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So I'll move zoning amendment bylaw 2014 number 4500.072. That is RA 339. To rezone from I2 to I4 to expand the medical marijuana facility at 1100 Mon Road, past first reading.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And
the zoning amendment bylaw 2014 number 4500.072 past second reading.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We've dealt with this next item, so we go into item on the proposed telecommunication tower at 4920 Jordan Avenue. Purpose to present council with information regarding a request from the Altus Group on behalf of Rogers Communication that a letter of concurrence indicating municipal support for a proposed telecommunications tower at 4920 Jordan Avenue be sent to Industry Canada. Now, we do have a delegation, and the delegation is Ms. Vissers and Mr. Sam Segida, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Altus Group, on behalf of Rogers Communication. Welcome.
My name is Leifka Vissers, and with me tonight is Sam Segida of Rogers Telecommunications.
Hello.
We're here tonight to request concurrence for the telecommunications project at 4920 Jordan Avenue. I'm just going to grab the remote. In the interest of time, I'll just cover the appropriate topics, but afterwards we're happy to answer any questions that arise from the presentation. After a brief introduction, we'll talk about the coverage objectives of the proposal, due diligence we undertook for the proposal, design considerations we undertook to best meet the municipality's needs, municipal consultation that was undertaken, public consultation, as well as our request for concurrence. So the benefits of wireless telecommunications are evident in our community. It's an exceptional business tool. High-speed data transmission is incredible for staying in touch with family, friends, and the community. For safety and for 911, it's a critical tool. Currently, more than half of 911 calls are made from cell phones. For tourism, through technological advancements, our wireless handhelds have become fully functioning mapping devices and personal computers. In terms of public health, Health Canada has actually developed guidelines for safe human exposure to RF or radio frequency energy. These are commonly known as Safety Code 6 requirements. Health Canada's responsibility is to research and investigate any possible health effects associated with exposure. Safety Code 6 sets limits for safe exposure for all radio frequency fields at home, at work, at school. These include television broadcasting facilities, medical equipment, microwaves, radio, and other devices. Our facility will meet Safety Code 6 requirements as updated this past summer. The current coverage in the Brennan Lake area is not terribly, it's actually quite poor. In this map, low coverage is indicated by yellow, almost no coverage or no coverage is indicated by red, medium coverage by green, and good coverage by blue. As you can see, The area is very poorly serviced. This is our current coverage, and our proposed coverage, should this project be approved, would see a dramatic improvement, especially in the residential areas. And this is a very poor laser pointer. Right here, as well as right there. We also expect to see dramatically improved coverage along the highway corridors, and this is where the safety and the 911 calls come into play, as most highway accidents are reported by cell phones. Rogers undertook significant due diligence over the past year while choosing this site and working with the municipality to best suit the site to the municipality's needs. We first attempted to co-locate on existing towers. That's our primary objective. It's faster, it's easier. When that failed, we sought industrial lands, which are preferred for this type of facility. It has less of an impact on the community, on residences, and it has less of a visual impact as well. We seek to site the greatest distance from residential uses. We look for minimal aesthetic impact. So anything we can do to site the facility outside of view planes is critical. We also seek for minimal environmental impact, and this goes in line with finding industrial sites that are already developed. We also seek higher elevation areas. By seeking a higher elevation area, we can reduce the height of the tower, minimizing visual impact and minimizing the effects. So in selecting the site, the lot we did select was ideal in that it enabled us to use industrial lands, minimize the impacts on residential neighbors, and minimize impacts on the environment. We first sought co-location, as I mentioned. There is an existing TELUS tower in the area we sought to service, and it's indicated here in green. We requested co-location from TELUS. When TELUS responded to us, and their tower is 30 meters high, they noted that we could only locate below 12.5 meters as their equipment takes up the rest of the tower. Alternately, we could increase the height of the tower by up to 25%, which is the maximum allowable, but that would only issue a small space for our equipment. So in the co-location response, our engineers reviewed it and noted that first, the height provided by TELUS to co-locate was far too low to meet Rogers' coverage objectives. It would service an extremely small area. Second, in the event the tower height was extended by 25%, the maximum allowable, it still wouldn't be able to accommodate the Rogers equipment. Third, the landlords of the site weren't agreeable to increasing the height of the tower or to adding a second carrier to the site, so we were unable to co-locate. In terms of site selection, we then looked at all of the industrial lands within the area, and we approached just about every industrial landowner that met our objectives, as in had a high enough elevation to meet the requirements of the tower. So first, we sought 1A, 1B, and 1C. These properties are all owned by Mellerview Development, and I apologize if I butcher these names. Mellerview currently has the TELUS tower on their property, and they weren't interested in increasing the height of the tower. They were also not interested in having a second tower located on their property, as it would limit their use of the property. Site number 2 is currently a mall. We approached them about siting on their property, and they weren't interested in having a telecommunications tower. We then sought out lots 3 and 4, the Volkswagen dealership, as well as Flashpoint, and neither was willing to have a telecommunications tower sited on their properties, and I believe their properties weren't, the land mass didn't allow for it either. It would have taken up valuable parking spaces. We approached lot 6, and they weren't agreeable to having a telecommunications tower on their property. We also looked at area 5, and I've circled it all in red here because it's below a bluff, and what that means is it drops in elevation considerably. So when we had our RF engineers review this site, it wasn't a usable site for this level of tower. We would have had to increase the height of the tower considerably to accommodate the drop in elevation, and that just wasn't desirable. It would have also been a lot more visible at that height from these residents here. So we thought that wasn't a best planning practice. In the end, we actually found an agreeable landowner, which is highlighted here in green. This site's located in an industrial lot. It's already developed, minimal aesthetic impact, minimal impact on the environment, and we felt that this site represented best planning practices. So after exhausting all options, we did have an agreeable landowner, and we moved ahead with our proposal. So the location of our proposal is for 4920 Jordan Avenue in Nanaimo. Just to represent the zoning considerations, this is zoned industrial, and it's surrounded by other industrial land uses. In terms of design considerations, we've been working with the municipality since summer, I believe since May. We didn't consider a guide tower design because it just wasn't appropriate for the area. It would have taken up too much space with the guy wires. A self-support tower wasn't ideal either. The design just isn't aesthetically pleasing for an area this close to residential. We finally selected a monopole design. And unlike most monopole designs we've seen in the community, which have a pinwheel design, where the telecommunications infrastructure is sited quite a ways out from the pole, ours will have the telecommunications equipment flush mounted to have a very minimal visual impact. It has minimal footprint, minimal aesthetic impact. It's fenced for safety, and the height would be approximately 40 meters. The design, as I noted, was monopole with flush-mounted equipment. In terms of safety, we would have a secure compound to prevent anyone from climbing up the facility. And we've also completed photo renderings of what it would look like when viewed from Jordan Avenue to the north, here, as well as Jordan Avenue from the south. In terms of municipal consultation, we began consultation with the city approximately April of 2014, and we've been working with them since that time to select the site, to work on the design guidelines, and to complete municipal and public consultation. We amended the public consultation process based on feedback we got from the municipality, and we also met with city staff in October to discuss the site, the design, and options moving forwards. In terms of public consultation, CPC, Industry Canada, requires that we notify residents within 3 times tower height. In this case, we notified all properties within 4 times tower height, or 160 meters. We expanded because we felt that we were cutting off parts of blocks with the minimum required radius. In speaking to the municipality, we also extended to include the 4 homes near that 160-meter radius. We felt that they would have a view of the tower and that they should participate in the process. So we sent public notices to 15 residences total. We also posted 2 notices in the local newspaper. We only received 1 response, and it was a series of questions from one of the local residents. I've included it in the package to yourselves, though I believe city staff redacted the name of the individual for privacy purposes. We provided a full response to the individual, including answers to her questions about the design of the tower, why we were unable to co-locate, aesthetics, as well as safety. And I hope that we answered her questions in full. We haven't heard back since. In conclusion, Rogers believed that we've undertaken meaningful public consultation, that the siting of the proposed tower was the best planning practice. We believe that the current proposed location is best suited to optimize the cellular network, providing improved coverage in Nanaimo while ensuring minimal impact to residential uses. We respectfully request that Council issue a letter of concurrence so that we can go ahead and construct this facility and improve telecommunication coverage in the area.
Okay. Thank you. Questions? Councillor Bestwick.
Sorry, Your Worship. Just to receive the delegation.
Oh, okay. Any questions for the delegation? Go ahead. You're going to motion
Thank you, Worship. I would so move receipt of the delegation.
Okay. Second. All those in favour? Opposed? Thank you very much.
Your Worship, I would so move to direct staff to provide a letter of concurrence to Industry Canada in response to a proposed 40-meter telecommunications facility at 4920 Jordan Avenue.
Item 1, okay. And second, okay. Discussion, Councillor Bestwick, anything to add?
No.
Councillor Brennan, do you want to add to it? Okay, I see no further questions. All those in favour? Opposed? Motion carries.
Your Worship?
Yes.
Interesting enough, this is an industrial tower. Recently we had a complaint from some people on a amateur radio tower, and there is seemingly no guidelines other than Industry Canada that a person can go in and put under a 50-foot tower in their property in any area of the community. So I may look to staff over the next little while to try and find some guidelines or how we can establish it to at least have a process that someone would follow to put a tower into a residential area. So I probably will ask staff for some information on that over the next while.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move into unresolved building deficiencies. Notice on title, section 5.7. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to the unresolved building deficiencies for the properties listed below. The first property is 21 Summit Drive. Anyone in attendance tonight that would like to speak to matters related to 21 Summit Drive? And the second property is 3401 Uplands Drive. Anyone in attendance tonight that would like to speak to matters related to 3401 Uplands Drive? Seeing none?
Your Worship, I would move that council by resolution instruct the corporate officer to file a bylaw contravention notice respecting the properties listed below at the Land Title and Survey Authority of British Columbia under Section 57 of the Community Charter.
Okay, the two items are noted there. It's moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into structure removal at 215 Newcastle Avenue. The purpose to obtain council authorization to enforce the provisions of the Community Charter. And it's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to 215 Newcastle Avenue. Anyone in attendance tonight that wants to speak to matters related to 215 Newcastle Avenue? Come forward, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Horn. You may have seen my business card. I live at 450 Vancouver Avenue, which is approximately 3 blocks from the property in question. And the staff view, as explained to me by the city social planner, John Horn, the staff view is, or the conventional logical view of the demolition question, is that the house should be demolished for the purposes of preventing fires and other unsafe conditions, and to point out that the house is boarded up and currently unused as a residence. So I'd like to put on record that John Horn and I can come to different conclusions and have different views. My view is more of a sentimental one. Firstly, I would like to summarize by saying that I would rather see a boarded up house on that property than an empty lot. I have the opinion that the owner is not going to redevelop or sell the property if the house is demolished. I'm not even certain that she would have the financial means to demolish it or compensate the city for doing so. On a personal level, my sentimental view is based on the fact that this was the haunted house of my youth. It is a nice old house with beautiful architectural features. I take kids there now and show them what a haunted house looks like. Also, I watched my brothers put a roof on that house, and historically, it was the home of former Nanaimo mayor, Mayor Harrison, I believe. Finally, the owner is a sweet old lady who seems quite attached to the house psychologically and may not have, anything else to go with if the house is demolished. Getting back to a more practical take on the subject, the stated reason for demolishing the building is that it is dilapidated and the property is unclean and untidy. Since the issue was brought up by the city in the summer, volunteers from Mount Eagle Church have been coming to the property. They have cleared the blackberry bushes, they've mowed the lawn, they have ensured that the house is properly boarded up, and perhaps more importantly than anything else, they have gotten the owner to remove her trailer from the property so that I believe she is no longer attempting to live on the property and coming and going from the house. These were concerns that were around when the issue first started coming on the City Council agenda some months ago. And I believe that this situation will remain stable if the house is not demolished. The volunteers seem committed to keeping the property tidy and somewhat presentable. And if they're not able to do that, then I personally will take a direct hand in the matter and start volunteering myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak matters related to that property at 215 Newcastle Avenue? I'm sorry. Okay, seeing none. Councillor Bestwick.
Your Worship, I'll make the motion, then I'd like to speak to it. But staff, I move that council, pursuant to sections 72(3) and 474 of the Community Charter, resolve that the building located at 215 Newcastle Avenue is damaged beyond 75% of assessed value, and is considered to be in a dilapidated and unclean condition. The owner of the property is hereby required to demolish the building, leave the site clean within 60 days, and if not, the city will undertake to demolish the building. At the owner's expense.
Second, okay. Councillor Besser, go ahead.
Thank you. So it bodes the question, knowing reasonably well the property and the property owner. And in my opinion, it is unsightly in all of those things. The ability for the owner to pay, do we have that discussion? Or does 60 days just come and go, and then we go in and do what we need to do because we'll give you direction to do that? So do we even know if this person has the ability to pay?
Who's that going to be, Mr. Churchill? Do you want to?
We are in contact with a representative for the owner who is a family member that is looking after the interests of the owner and speaking for her. I'm not aware of her financial status in terms of paying for the demolition. The city, if it steps in, does so, conducts the demolition, and then the monies owed are placed on her taxes. So it's a matter that would have to be settled at some point in time by the owner. But again, it's not something that we're privy to and have that information.
Thank you.
She does have the support of her family.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions on this? Seeing none, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into Property Maintenance Bylaw 1990, number 3704. It's requested the Council herein and wishing to speak with respect to the property maintenance for the properties listed below. 619 Pine Street, wood waste, metal waste, old furniture, unused windows, propane tanks, garbage, and miscellaneous debris, as you can see from behind me. And it shows on the overhead that it's 619 Pine Street. Anyone in attendance tonight that would like to speak to matters related to 619 Pine Street? Okay, the second property is going to be 803 Howard Avenue, and old truck canopy, old appliances, tools, old furniture, household garbage, and miscellaneous debris. Is there any in attendance tonight that would like to speak to matters related to 803 Howard Avenue? Seeing none.
Your Worship, I would move that Council, pursuant to Property Maintenance Bylaw 1990-3704, direct the owners of the following properties to remove the materials as listed below from the premises within 14 days, or the work will be done by the city at the agent's or its agent at the owner's cost.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into partial update of the 2004 market feasibility study for the Vancouver Island Conference Centre. Purpose to provide Council with updated information regarding the industry trends and performance expectations of for the Vancouver Island Conference Centre VICC. There's a motion there. The Council directs staff to issue a request for a proposal to complete a partial update of the 2004 feasibility study for the VICC.
Your Worship, I won't be making this the staff's recommendation, but I would wish to defer this to the incoming council to.
Okay, motion to defer. Is there a seconder for that?
Second. Moved
and seconded. Discussion on deferral, which all those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Brennan opposed. Balance of council in favor. The motion is deferred to the next to the new incoming council.
Your Worship, for clarification, this is for December 8th meeting?
Sorry?
For the next council meeting?
Sure.
Okay.
Future meeting, but we can always.
Do we have to set an actual date on it now?
Your Worship, it'll be helpful for us so we can put it on the agenda. So the next council meeting is inaugural meeting on December 1st, and the next meeting after that one is December 8th, which you're going to be meeting right here. So.
Works for me.
Okay. December 8th it is. Thank you. Now the edition. The minutes of the combined meeting of the Cultural Committee and the Nanaimo Community Cultural Commission held 2014 October 1. So moved. Second? Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And bylaws with no accompanying report. 10A, motion that zoning amendment bylaw 2014 number 4500.058 RA 327 at 867 Bruce Avenue and 538 8th Street to permit a grocery store greater than 2,000 square meters, which happens to be Quality Foods, in the CC2 zone be adopted. Moved and seconded. Moved and seconded. Obviously, I support this. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And B, motion that Nanaimo Emergency Program Bylaw 2014 number 7202 to establish a comprehensive management program to prepare for, respond to, and recover from emergencies and disasters be adopted. Moved. Councillor Kipp, did you want a second that one? Okay. Is there a seconder for that? Moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into correspondence, not related to report, none. Council appointments, none at this time. And notices of motion, none. Other business, we have none, and we move into question period. Agenda items only.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I would like to bring something up in other business, if I could.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Under item 14, okay.
I just want to thank the departing members of council for their service that I have spent with them, the time I've spent with them for the past 3 years, and I've enjoyed it. And I want to wish you the very best in your future endeavors, and tell you that you're all very, very good and dedicated people. And thank you.
Thank you. Okay, appreciate that. Thank you. Very kind. Okay. Question period is on again or no? None? You don't have to.
I know I don't, but...
okay. I didn't want to talk you into it, that was all.
yeah. Gord Fuller, 604 Nichols Street. Probably the last time you see me in a tie. Couple of questions. How does council determine a building is damaged beyond 75% of its assessed value? I know you can look up the assessed value. Do you get a builder to go in and take a look, do a little bit of a report on that, or how is it determined?
Okay, Mr.
I've
Churchill.
often wondered that.
Yeah. Mr. Churchill, how is that determination made?
It's determined by our building department, both through inside inspections. In the case of this house, it was also determined by photos and damage that was available through 2 fires that were there. And also when they inspect the outside of the house and look at the water penetration, the roof, they come up with the determination then that it is over 75% of assessed value. And they use the BC assessment value to look at what is 75% thereof.
Your Worship, there is cases, of course, where the assessed value is so low because there's been no activity that warrants the change in the assessed value that we would review that with the help of an appraisal to make sure that we're not overcompensating because of the assessed value.
Okay.
Thanks. This one has to do with the 2014 electoral election results. Could you possibly pull up page 16 of the report and put it up there? I just have some questions about it.
Do we have that available?
We should have. Yeah, that's probably the one you're looking at, the mayor results and all of that. And what's the total say for valid votes when you go past the orange, past the yellow part, and then down at the bottom of that column? Total valid votes. Or
138, 539.
Sure. As soon as I can't find it. Yeah. Yeah, so it says total valid votes cast, 6,855.
Oh, there it is. There.
Yeah.
That doesn't add up, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't add up. You know, and that's, you know, for me, it's basic Excel. You have those columns and such, sum equals blah, blah, blah. Yeah. 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 So, might be something you want to change on the website and
if you
Might be a
do,
valid
I
point.
noticed these were validated. And like, how do you make a mistake like that? That's pretty simple. I actually caught it when I went in and handed in my sign removal sheet. And then I totally forgot about it again. And then I was looking at the agenda today at about 4:30, and I remembered it because I saw it on the agenda. So, yeah.
We'll certainly have to get that remedied, but good
Well, it's
catch.
already been approved, so, yeah.
It all adds up.
Yeah, it does, though. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
To call staff's attention to that?
Yeah. Oh, for
Instead
sure.
of trying to embarrass them.
Well, no, it was actually after 4:30, Councillor Brennan. So when I was looking at the stuff.
Well, we caught it now. That's the big thing. I appreciate that.
Well, and I did post it on my Facebook group, which I know is monitored. So, anyway, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Fred Taylor, in my elder age, I may ask Mr. Swaby to help me, but the rules of the province, was there a service by Mr. McKay on Mr. Rattan under the Rentals Act to move?
Oh, he's being funny.
What's that?
That's a joke.
Rental, was there a motion to move?
Oh.
Rentals Act.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I'm remembering that.
I have a whole bunch of questions concerning the partial update for the market feasibility study of the Vancouver Island Convention Center, but I'll leave most of them to the later meeting. But I've got one question here. Is this the first feasibility study since 2004, or has the city based market studies, et cetera, solely upon the operator statistics and purviews?
Mr. Hickey?
Mayor Rattan, yes, that's the last study that was done, 2004 Grant Thornton, which was an update of a 2001 study.
That's 10 years. Hopefully the next council takes a little better look at these things. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. What are we saying? Well, I just want to say, if I can, this is, well, we will be adjourning certainly, but it's been a pleasure on behalf of myself and others that will not be returning. I want to say what a great pleasure and honor it's been to serve the people of Nanaimo. For me, it's 6 years, and for Diana, 6 years, for Councillor Patchy, 6 years, and for Councillor Anderson, 3, I think, and our incoming mayor, Mayor-elect McKay, will be as well. And then the interesting thing, the dynamics there have been set up in such a way, really with great vision and foresight, so that everyone on my right will be returning. And, Councillor, well, that wrecked my whole idea. Yeah, sure, wrecked my whole plan. Anyway, Councillors Brennan, Kipp, and obviously Councillor Besserick will be returning under and with Mayor McKay. I wish them all the success in the world. They worked hard, and they returned with a strong mandate, and I congratulate you for that. And for those of us that are leaving, well, we'll miss you guys, but thank you, Nanaimo. Senior council. How old do you have to be? Anyway, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much. Thank you.